Today is the birthday of Yusef Islam, who went by the stage name of Cat Stevens from the late 60s until the end of the 1970s. I have almost all of the classic Cat Stevens albums on CD. T for the Tillerman, Teaser and the Firecat, Mona Bone Jacone, Buddha and the Chocolate Box, and even the album you see here right in front of you. But the reason I'm doing these two albums is because I want to focus on the last two albums using the Cat Stevens name, recorded in the late 1970s, before his 27-year retirement from making music, never mind popular music, of any kind. And the first is this album, which was given to me as a repeat from the record collection of my boyfriend, Scott Edwards. The title is pronounced, I believe, Is It So, spelled phonetically. I always love that picture of a sliver of Cat Stevens with a red yo-yo. There's all kinds of pictures inside the gatefold of the album, and it is a gatefold. Cat Stevens has always been associated with children for some reason. Where do the children play, and innocence in general, and the loss thereof. I'm pretty sure this was an original pressing. This album changed a lot for Cat Stevens. It's actually one of my favorites of his. He had a big hit off this album from 1977 with Remember the Day of the Old Schoolyard. He brought a lot more synthesizers into this album and played most of the instruments himself. He also brought in Ray Gomez and Korea to do solos. Kypros, or Kypros, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, is sort of a Baroque Latin rhythm box instrumental, but the instrumental that really gets me on here is Was Dog a Donut. I heard it on a DJ compilation at the beginning of the new millennium, and I gotta be honest with you, I would never have known it was Cat Stevens if it didn't label it. It sounds like a proto hip-hop electro song with a jazz funk twist. Chick Corea plays an electric solo, piano solo on it. Killin' Time is actually a really strong funk rocker with, again, a synthesized twist, kind of Gary Wright-ish. The songs on this album you would generally not associate with Cat Stevens. Even the more melodic, slower tunes on this album, they have a different flavor to them. There's more gospel organ and more of a focus on Brazilian rhythms. So it's a different Cat Stevens, even for him. There's another thing about this album. Inside, it is this little tiny sheet in lieu of an album jacket that contains the credits, because there's a lot of credits, as you can see, for this album, from one cut to the other. And both of these albums have a custom label. That's side B, actually, but that's the custom label. This is the front of that yo-yo. I noticed a lot of vinyl in the late 70s and early 80s have custom labels. I haven't seen any from the 60s, but anyway. The next album is actually the very last album recorded by Cat Stevens under that name in 1978. He walked into a mosque and changed his name to Yusef Islam at the end of 1977, but he owed A&M one last record under the Cat Stevens name, and this album, Back to Earth, was the result of that. He was anxious to begin his retirement. There's a couple songs on here. Last Love Song and Just Another Night being among them that, kind of show a rejection of the music industry of that time. This album puts him into another place from where his previous album was. This actually has a jacket, and it was produced by Paul Samwell-Smith, who did a lot of his classic early records, And, for the most part, here's the lyrics. It sounds like his earlier 70s music, and again, like with Is It So, it has a custom label. This album, though, is a little more jarring in some ways. For the most part, it's slower, it's more singer-songwriter, folk-based. There's a couple songs on here that go there the same way the last album does, as it were. He does a straight-up Brazilian jazz funk instrumental called Nascimento, named for Milton Nascimento, the famous Brazilian artist. And New York Times, which is sort of a synthesized electronic disco pop song, to be honest with you, that are very atypical of the rest of the album. But as you can see, Back to Earth is up there in kind of a gold-ish embroidered lettering, which you can see on the side with the title. I don't know if you can see it in the light, but it's kind of a gold embossed thing. So for Yusef Islam's birthday today, I wanted to celebrate the last 2 albums of Cat Stevens. I hope we hear more pop material from Yusef Islam in the future, or more music in general. But, these are albums that, if you see them on vinyl, or you see them on CD, and you don't know the rest of the contents, or, especially with Back to Earth, you don't have a hit to ground you, don't think that you're not picking up good records. A lot of people give these albums the bum rush, but they're really good. And if you want to hear Cat Stevens branching out and not doing his classic sound but still being himself somehow, you will love these albums in terms of artistic growth from who he was. Happy birthday, Yusef Islam. See you next time. Peace.